It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the Toolshed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
G'day folks, welcome to another episode of the Toolshed. If this is the first time you've either watched or listened to the Toolshed, we're always looking for platforms, philosophies, ideas, services, products to help builders have a better building business. One of the big challenges in building is time. And I don't think I've ever met a lazy builder as far as like they all work, the ones that I know in any case, work hard. They work long hours. And quite often that is because they're doing most of everything themselves. And there are lots of platforms, there's lots of services, there's lots of ideas out there that can help builders enjoy what they're doing a whole lot more and not have to do absolutely everything. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking to Greg Smith from Admin's The Answer. And there he is. There's Greg Smith. Now, Greg, thanks a lot for putting some time aside to talk to us. My first question is, how did you get into this? Like, there's always a really interesting backstory as how we ended up where we end up. So what was going on? What was happening in your life that you thought, I know what I need to do is create a business that supports builders with their administration?
Thanks, Mick. Pleasure to be here. The very, very quick executive summary is after I'm a tradie, I had my own businesses. When I sold them and then went to work for other tradies, some guys were sending me to the right place with the right job, with the right tools. I'd take the right materials, and then the day after I'd work for someone else. Wrong house, wrong name, wrong tools, wrong materials, and they're paying me by the hour and wasting a fortune. And I did that for a while. And I came home one day and I said to my wife, I think there's something in this admin that you used to do for our business when we had ours. And I've asked around, and I'm going to start up an admin company for tradies because I reckon there's a need out there. And that was literally how it got started 5.5 years ago.
Wow. So tell me about Admin's The Answer's structure, because we talk from time to time about virtual assistants, and there are lots of organisations around that can provide virtual assistants for all sorts of businesses. There's specific ones for trades-based businesses, but I get a sense that Admin's The Answer is different to that, and so sort of help us understand the structure
Sure.
of Admin's The Answer.
Yeah, I think the first difference, Mick, is that as best as my research has shown, I'm the only ex-tradie that is doing what we're doing now in running other businesses administration. I most certainly was the guy up till 11 o'clock every night punching quotes out and doing all the paperwork, not really enjoying it, but it was in the have-to-do mode. So I've lived the life. I know what it's like. Our team are all in Australia. They all work from home. Virtual by description, yes, because they're not sitting in the guys' offices, but they are all in Australia. And our team has the same guys they look after, or the same trades businesses they look after every day. So unless they're on holidays or they're crook, they are looking after the same tradie or a group of tradies every day. That relationship grows and grows in some respects, where the two I see for some businesses who don't have anyone working for them, don't have a wife or girlfriend to help them, and we're basically the other people in their business.
So what are some of the I was about to say problems, let's say challenges that trades-based businesses, and I'm assuming it's builders and other trades, plumbers, electricians, and so on and so forth. It's
Yeah.
the whole disaster.
Yep.
What are some of the challenges that they come to you with? So what are you basically taking off their hands and why do they need it taken off their hands is probably really the main thing that we need to unpack, I think.
Yeah, I think in your opening, Mick, the discussion of time, and unfortunately it's a non-negotiable thing, it just happens, is what we give back to tradies. And it is, from my own experience, almost impossible to run a successful business trying to do everything yourself. And sometimes you are your own worst enemy, thinking that you have to do everything yourself, and that's simply not the case. So we can do anything from literally take your phone over from you. We make and receive all the phone calls, manage all of your clients' needs through job management systems. At the end of the day, the most important person that we deal with is our tradies' clients. Uh, and if we can keep their understanding and their needs in order, that's the end client, then they'll become a raving lunatic fan of the trades business, and referrals happen, and a whole world of extra leads come that way by us looking after them, even if it's a phone call to say that the trade is going to be an hour late. Um, is not something that happens all that often, but it's something that by default we just do every day.
Yeah. So can you give me some examples of, and I know that there's like extreme examples of massive time saved, and probably less extreme examples of a small amount that's saved, but somewhere in the middle, the average client for you, when they come to you and they start working with you, what could they expect to experience as far as some time savings there? Like they're going from X hours to X hours. What would that look like working with you?
One of the first questions I do ask a new prospect is how many hours they think they're spending on admin a week, and often it's 2 or 3 hours. Some know, and some, that it's the finger in the air going, "Oh, I think," or it could be flat out way too much. Could be the response, and that's why they called us in the first place. A very rough rule of thumb is 2 to 3 hours a day. Now, but by the same admission, they also say that they're not being very efficient with that 2 or 3 hours. That's probably the equivalent of, I don't know, 45 minutes of our work, because we're experts at this. We're not experts at being the trade out on the tools, but we are experts at running their admin. For businesses that we're doing a whole heap for, we're probably 3 hours a day for them. For other businesses, we might only be 45 minutes or an hour. That's because they're just running a smaller business and there's less to do. But at the end of the day, everything is done.
Yeah. Let's unpack the concept of false economy, because and I was having a conversation with my niece's husband just yesterday, about we have a fella come in and he trims the bushes and mows the lawns and all of that sort of stuff, and my niece's husband was looking at his phone yesterday and wanted to buy some zero turn lawn mower or whatever to do, because he's got quite a lot of grass to cut, and it grows, you can watch it growing, and he's had a couple of different guys over there cutting it for him. And we just had this discussion of the cost of the lawnmower, the time to do it, the maintenance on the lawnmower, all of this sort of stuff. And even though I could prove to him that it was significantly more beneficial financially, not to mention the time freedom, to get somebody to come in and do it, he just had this, no, I just can't. I don't want to spend the money. I just, why would I get somebody else to do it when I can do it myself? And I've spoken to lots of builders, and when we started first talking about virtual assistants, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, it was just met with massive resistance. No, they need to be in my business. They need to know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And now we've got members that have got 2 and 3 virtual assistants on their team doing, all sorts of specialist jobs. So tell me how you tackle that. And I'm sure it's an objection or a comment that you would hear quite often, that, I can't afford somebody like you. and in my mind straight away, it's like you can't afford not to, because
Yeah,
you've kind of answered it. You're doing something that takes 45 minutes, so the builder is paying you to do 45 minutes work that would have taken them 3 hours to do, and probably not as well. So can you unpack that whole?
I can, and I lived that. I definitely lived that world in my business for a number of years. With the why would I get someone else to do something I already know how to do? The problem is when I'm doing that, I'm not doing other things, and the other things for me were maximizing my billable time. The trade business I had, it's not like you're an accountant and you can do someone's books at 2 a.m. and still get paid for it. As tradies, we've got a window of opportunity, and it's about maximizing that opportunity and invoicing as many hours during the day for billable time, but at the same time, not then going home and spending 3 or 4 hours on the computer instead of being with your family and friends. So it is what is it costing you by doing it yourself, and there's some of the hidden numbers that go on in trades businesses because you're not time clocking yourself, you're not logging a timesheet for yourself. It'd be a scary scenario if you did. I can guarantee that. But if you time clocked yourself and then build yourself out to your company, you would certainly find someone else to do your work quick smart if you realize what those numbers actually were. It can be quite scary.
Yeah, we have the same conversation, because we always promote being paid for your proposals rather than doing free quotes and so forth, and even talking about putting a quote or a proposal together, ensuring that you've taken consideration of the project management cost. And
Yep.
many builders don't. And I guess it may be because they don't value themselves, low self-value, that sort of thing. But if you like you just said, if you had to pay somebody to have that first initial consultation with the client, and then all of the other client interactions, managing the ballet, the choreography of sub trades and things like that,
Mhm,
how much would
mhm.
you have to pay a person to do that is really the
Yeah.
question. And I guess that's the same for you. Like, how much would you have to pay somebody to do the hours that the builder's doing to
Mhm.
get that accomplishment? But it might take them 3 hours. They have to be paid for that 3 hours. They're not working those 3 hours and earning the money, and you could probably do it in 45 minutes.
Correct. We did some analysis not long ago and came up with an average that if I could find between 45 minutes and an hour extra in a tradie's calendar to bill themselves out per day, our cost of running their admin would be fully covered by that extra income that they would receive. 45 minutes to an hour at their rate, because their rate's a lot higher than my rate. Uh,
So it
that's for
becomes
sure.
cost neutral. But
Yeah.
what about the value of it? And I'm looking at some of the stuff you do. You do administration, you do customer contacts, chasing payments, invoicing, quoting, and more. But if we were just to pull one thing out of that, chasing payments,
Yeah.
let's pull two things out of this. Chasing payments and invoicing, because they are the two things that the builders and trades are notoriously awful at.
Yeah.
I've got a boat, and I get a guy to service the engines in the boat. It was challenging to get him to do the work because of, he wasn't able to manage his calendar very well. And I catch up with him most weeks, socially. And it was like 3 months after he'd done the work, and I said, "Mate, are you ever going to invoice me for that work?" Well, no, I didn't ask that question first. I said, "Mate, how's business? How's your cash flow?" And he said, "Oh, mate, it's tight."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I
It's,
said,
it's
"I
hard.
wonder why." So,
Business is hard.
if you're talking about just chasing payments, though,
Yeah.
and you said like the cost of what you're doing is cost neutral just by saving
Mm.
that time. But what about
Yeah.
the quality of the client's experience and what have you? And isn't it much easier and less confrontational for you to be chasing an overdue payment than the tradesmen themselves?
It is, and the customer, and sometimes they just forget. Let's be fair. Even our customers are busy, but just getting a phone call from someone else on a gentle reminder, courtesy to say, your invoice is still showing outstanding. 9.5 times out of 10, that's enough. With a huge apology, going, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll get that paid tonight," and that's what we see happening. Um, Further to that, an example we had just last month, we took over, or we started with a new tradie, and once we unpacked his job management system and got stuck into his Xero financials, we uncovered 2 jobs that were finished last month that he had not invoiced for. He had completely forgotten about them. $11,600, Mick.
Oh dear, I shouldn't laugh, but it is
And
comical.
it is an unfortunate common story. Turn that around to that same tradie now has his calendar checked by my team every morning. If a job is deemed to have been finished the afternoon before and the invoice hasn't been done, he'll get a text message from my team. We had another client who was in exactly the same boat. We found a job that hadn't been invoiced that was worth $8,450, and he said, "Enough is enough. Can you start doing my invoicing for me as well, please?" Of course, no problem. So the only thing we now need to know is the job finished? Did it go with the quote? Are there any variations? Answer those 3 questions, and the invoice is in a customer's inbox. We've had so many examples, Mick, where we've invoiced that morning tea and the money's in the tradie's bank account before his day's finished.
So what
So,
impact does that have on cash flow? Like and then the on flow of problems that comes from tight cash flow. Like
yeah, we've had one guy cancel his bank overdraft, Mick. That's been the largest impact we've had. Bugger that, giving the bank more money just for borrowing their money when that your money's there. It's just sitting in your customer's bank account, not yours. Just through some seamless professional following up and doing bloody invoicing every day. If you finish a job today, there's no reason whatsoever that they invoice should not be sent that same day.
I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. There's one roadblock in your business that, when identified and fixed, a whole bunch of other frustrating problems will disappear at the same time. So much time, effort, and money is thrown at problems in an attempt to fix them that often doesn't fix the problem and just leads to more frustration. And if this cycle continues, it increases stress and just makes running your own business an unenjoyable pain in the ass. And it doesn't have to be that way. Being a business owner can give you more time and financial freedom, and it can be super rewarding if you do it right. The key is to find your unique roadblock, which you're often too close to the action to see yourself. How do I know this? I've been working in peak performance and business coaching for over 3 decades, and with builders specifically for over 10 years, and I see it every day. So I encourage you to take the Builder's Success Scorecard right now. The link to take the scorecard is in the description. It's free. It'll take you about 90 seconds, and you'll have some quality feedback in your inbox before you know it. Absolutely. So
And then we'll follow them up.
let's talk about the initial steps. Like, so someone's listening to this and they're kind of shaking their head and think that I won't blame you, Greg. I'm taking the piss out of them for not invoicing and doing all of that sort of stuff. And they think maybe I should look into this. What are the first steps? Just walk us through the experience. What do they need to do, and what can they expect?
Well, they can certainly either send us an email or just give me a call. I'm sure you'll share those details. And then the first thing we do is we jump on a Zoom meeting and have a good old conversation, because it's about as much me getting to understand their business as it is them getting to know how we work as well. So there's lessons that have to go both ways, but I'm going to ask 1,000 questions about their business and get access to some of their systems or set systems up for them. And those conversations are then very unique to that business. We've got people who don't invoice on time or hate chasing payments. And the next client goes, I'm all over my invoicing. There's no way I'm going to let a payment go late, but he's never followed up a quote in his life. So we want to unpack that and the uniqueness of what the tradie is. That's the first Zoom meeting. If they then like that, we then have another Zoom meeting with my onboarding team. We have a programmed 4-week onboarding system where the onboarding team gets a hold of the tradies account. They've been involved in the pre-conversations. I've given them some information about those tradies businesses, and they're going to start getting their systems in order and processes and plans put in place. So that 4 weeks is what we call get rid of the noise. We started with a guy this morning. He's got 16 new clients that have come through his Google, I'll call it his Google call center, and they're 2.5 weeks old, and he hasn't called one of them. So I think we've made all those calls today, at least to make sure that the customer is still a potential customer. But that's the mess they get in, because they just get, they get too busy, because you just can't do it all.
Can you just unpack the value of that a little bit? Because with Black Belt, we do an in-person, a 2-day in-person thing called an intensive once a year, and then we do like training day. So we get together kind of 4 times a year, but we have this 2-day get together at some destination. A month or so ago, we're in Queenstown, New Zealand. And one of the speakers there was talking about momentum and the impact that it makes in the level of authority that you exude by getting back to someone quickly, how it increases the trust, obviously how it takes advantage of momentum. But the main thing for me was just increasing that level of authority, like that somebody really feels like they've just called somebody who knows what they're doing when they get back to them, sometimes within moments of them reaching out. How important do you think that is? And have you seen the difference when your team is reaching out and responding to inquiry rather than losing that momentum by letting the business owner do it?
At the end of the day, we are all, at the end of the day, we're all customers. And we're customers for our own household, etc. And if we call someone, it doesn't have to be a tradie, but if we call someone, we'd like someone to answer and be able to answer that question on the phone, not leave a message, not get called back, or not have to ring a second time. So in our own worlds and in our own life, we have an expectation of service. And so that service level should be reflected for our own businesses. There's no way someone's going to call me and I never call them back. And we don't want to have a trades business where a potential customer is calling them and they don't get a call back. We're just it's just not on our radar. Because these days with Google and phones, etc., it's bloody easy to find another tradie just by talking to your phone and saying, find me another plumber near me. I mean, it literally takes that. That's all it takes to find another plumber, because the first one they've called hasn't been bothered to honour the opportunity of servicing that client. Huge. So many examples we've had of thank you for calling me back, or thank you for answering. Thank you for answering is a very, very common comment we get from a client. Very common. It's being busy is no excuse. It's flat out you're doing yourself a major disjustice if you classify yourself as, well, I'm just too busy to answer that phone.
Yeah, and it's not a genuine excuse, and you shouldn't be telling the prospect that that's the reason why you've taken so long. And it's just one of those really frustrating things that I get told by a lot of our black belt members from time to time that, I got the job because I was the only one who turned up or the only one who returned the call. And it's like, please, guys, let us not think that we are doing a really great job because we get the gig because we turn up or we show up or do what we said we're going to do. Like, it is a very low bar in this industry. Don't just set your business up so you're just above the average, because it's just
No.
it's just way low, and we just shouldn't be doing it. So
No, we, and I can say we, Mick, because I've come from the trade. We often get the blunt end of the stick when it comes to stereotyping. I personally definitely on a mission to change that, because at the end of the day, if your toilet's blocked or your house needs landscaping or your lights have just gone out or your dog needs to be washed, well, then you're going to be calling a tradie. But at the same time, you want to get an answer to that phone call. We're very reliant, so yeah, I'm planning on. It's my little mission to change the stereotype that tradies are an invaluable part of our community, but we have to treat our customers accordingly to change that.
couldn't agree more. They are absolutely invaluable. They just need to lift the level of professionalism. If you become and behave like a professional, you'll be paid like a professional. And a
Agreed.
lot of the ugly stuff will disappear out of your business. Best place to reach out to you so somebody listening to this can have this conversation with you or have some
Sure.
sort of contact?
My direct mobile number is 0412 831 401. It's 0412 831 401. Or best email is office at admins the answer, ADMINSTHE answer.com.au. Office at adminstheanswer.com.au.
Okay, we'll make sure we put the number, the links, the website, all of that sort of stuff in the description.
Cool.
So, folks, if you're watching this or listening to it, those links will be there to reach out. So,
I'll give you one other thought for the listeners, Mick. We had a roofer down in Sydney who my team knew that there were three particular quotes for that were way too long overdue, and she tried this and she tried that, and she just couldn't get a hold of the tradie. So she designed another way of getting the quote information out of him, sent him a text and said, could I suggest X, Y, and Z? He texts back in 30 seconds going, what a bloody brilliant idea. They got three of those quotes. They got those three quotes done that afternoon. This is just 3 weeks ago. Total quote price just under $400,000. One of those quotes worth 140 got approved overnight. And all of a sudden they've opened up their inbox to a $140,000 job the next morning. It simply would not have happened if the tradie was trying to do all of that himself.
Yeah. You can't be good at everything.
No.
Surround yourself with people and processes that can do a much better job. So, as I said, absolute privilege to meet you and have you on the show. And I just love it when I meet people that are kind of singing off the same page of the hymn book as me. Like, I just want to contribute to the improvement of the building industry. You do too. It's not rocket science. Just need to get the bunch of stuff off your plate that you aren't great at, and just be great at what you're great at.
Just keep doing what you're good at and leave the other noise to us.
So thanks for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Mick. Thank you.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode speaking to Greg, and I really hope it got you thinking about what am I not doing, because it is a very, very common conversation that cash flow is tight. The next question is, how's your invoicing? I'm behind on it. It pains me to talk to builders sometimes when they say we're really struggling for work, and you look at the system when a lead comes in or whatever, it can sometimes take days, sometimes weeks to get back to them, and that's the problem. We've got to have systems and processes and people and platforms to be able to give a professional experience to the prospects. At the end of the day, you don't have to take them on if you don't like them, but at least do all of the right things up until that point. And there are people out there like Greg and Admin's The Answer that can help you with this and take these things off your plate and really refine your business and make it a whole lot more efficient and enjoyable, I'm sure. So all the links will be in the description, as we said. Reach out, have a conversation with Greg, see where it ends up. Love to get some feedback from you. And after you've had that conversation and see how it's working for you. Love to get that feedback. We'll be back with another episode of the Toolshed podcast before you know it. I'm Mick Hawes from Builder's Business Black Belt. That is all. I am out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Toolshed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.